Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. Late at night in Silicon Valley, the lights are still on in the top floor offices of Quantum Tech's corporate headquarters building. The rain outside the window continued to beat against the floor-to-ceiling windows, reflecting Nathaniel Wade's somber face. He gripped the phone tightly, his knuckles white from the effort. "If anything happens before I see her, you'll live to regret it." His voice was low and dangerous, as if he were a cheetah poised to strike. The hotel manager on the other end of the line was visibly shaken by this tone of voice and stammered for several moments before transferring the call to his wife. In this moment, Nathaniel's mind kept flashing back to everything that had happened in the past 3 months. As CTO of Quantum Tech, one of Silicon Valley's top tech companies, he used to think he was in control of every detail of his life. However, like the programs he had debugged countless times, even the most perfect systems had fatal holes in them. On that evening 3 months ago, California's distinctive golden sunlight flooded the entire Silicon Valley. Nathaniel is in the middle of his quarterly technology strategy meeting when his assistant suddenly hurries in with urgent news. The company's core servers have suffered a major security breach. "I'm sorry, honey," he called Cassandra. "I may not be able to make it to the charity dinner tonight. A security breach of this caliber must be addressed immediately." "It's okay, go ahead." Cassandra's voice came through the phone with a hint of a leap he didn't notice at the time. "I can take care of myself. Not to mention there are several important donors to meet tonight." It was an annual charity dinner at the Four Seasons Hotel. The venue was richly decorated, with the light from the crystal chandeliers refracting off the champagne glasses, adding a dreamy touch to the space. Cassandra walked through the venue in a dark blue evening gown. As the director of the charity, she acted with grace and professionalism. That very night, Jordan Pierce, a partner at venture capital firm Sterling Partners, showed up at the dinner. Dressed in a customized Tom Ford suit, he exudes the elegance and confidence of a successful man. Between the drinks, Jordan's eyes kept lingering on Cassandra. "Mrs. Wade," Jordan said with a charming smile as she approached with her champagne, "I've heard a lot about you. Your accomplishments with the children's medical program are impressive." All of this was faithfully recorded by the ballroom security cameras. Cassandra's smile is brighter than usual as she unconsciously plays with the pearl necklace around her neck, a gift from Nathaniel on their 5th wedding anniversary. The change started that night. First, there were minor anomalies. Cassandra started frequenting the gym, updated her entire closet, and dyed her hair a sleek brownish-red pick. "A woman has to be kind to herself," is how she explains it, and besides, our organization needs a more professional image. This was immediately followed by a change in working hours. What used to be a regular Wednesday family dinner has turned into weeks of emergency budget meetings. Cassandra began to appear more frequently on social media, where she was constantly updating her photos with glamorous messages about living in the moment and pursuing the meaning of life. What really alerted Nathaniel was the incident with his son Lucas. It was a Tuesday afternoon when Lucas had a sudden asthma attack at school. The school nurse made the first call to the parents. Nathaniel immediately drops the multimillion-dollar M&A negotiations he's holding and drives to the school. However, Cassandra's calls were never answered. As he walked into the hospital with a frail Lucas in his arms, the nurse at the front desk handed him a document that required a guardian's signature. "Signatures from both parents are required," the nurse said. "It's a hospital rule." Nathaniel calls Cassandra's office landline, which is answered by her assistant, Emily. "I'm really sorry, Mr. Wade." Emily's voice dripped with a hint of unnaturalness. Her ladyship is in the middle of an important budget meeting, and her phone says it's off. It was almost 9 o'clock that night before Cassandra arrived at the hospital in a cloud of dust. Her makeup was still perfect, but her perfume smelled decidedly not the same as when she left the house that morning. "I'm sorry, my cell phone died," she explained, her eyes twinkling. "The meeting was too important for me to get away." Just as she leans in to kiss Lucas, Nathaniel notices an unfamiliar diamond necklace around her neck. It was an extremely elaborate design that was obviously worth a lot of money. When he asked, Cassandra was visibly flustered for a moment, then explained that it was the company's annual Employee of the Year award. Early the next morning, Nathaniel called the charity's finance department. Under the pretense of wanting to understand the employee incentive system, He inquired about the most recent incentive payout. The treasurer's response confirmed his suspicions. The agency had not budgeted for any in-kind awards in the recent past. From that day on, Nathaniel began to notice more details. He notices that Cassandra's cell phone has suddenly changed its password, and the iPad she was sharing has been set up with separate access. Whenever her cell phone vibrated, she checked it immediately, often walking to the balcony or bathroom before responding to the message. Even more perverse is her attitude towards Lucas. Cassandra, who had been so attentive to her son, began missing Lucas' asthma reviews frequently. "Just have Susan go with him," she told the nanny. "I'm sure the doctor will take care of it." Whenever Lucas is depressed due to an attack, she only offers a few perfunctory words of comfort. On a sunny weekend morning, while Cassandra made her routine trip to the gym, Nathaniel sat in his study pulling up the family credit card bill. In addition to a large number of high-end cosmetic and clothing purchases, he discovered several suspicious restaurant purchases. Michelin three-star restaurants like Le Bernardin and Per Se are consumed in the middle of the day on weekdays for amounts that are clearly beyond the range of an ordinary business lunch. Even more disturbing, he discovers that Cassandra's annual leave usage records show that she took the following week off, citing a trip to New York to attend a seminar on charitable programs. Yet when he checked the airplane ticket ordering records as the company's CTO, he found that her seat choice turned out to be the most secluded corner of business class. Until the afternoon that changed everything. Nathaniel comes home early to pick up his papers and realizes that Cassandra left her laptop unlocked in her haste to leave. On a hunch, he clicked on the email on his computer. In the inbox lay an email from Jordan Pierce. "Dear Cass," the email reads, "I have made arrangements for the trip and the hotel will be recorded as a business meeting. Remember to book your tickets on a different flight, and I'll be waiting for you at the Blue Stone Cafe on the south end of Central Park. P.S. The last necklace looks beautiful on you." Nathaniel sat quietly in his study, the California sunlight pouring through the floor-to-ceiling windows, but not bringing a hint of warmth. He opened his cell phone and pulled up the CarLog app that had been installed in Cassandra's car a month ago. These location records clearly show that her car appeared several times in the parking lot of a five-star resort hotel near Half Moon Bay. Later that evening, Cassandra, radiant in her newly purchased suit, announced that she was traveling to New York for a seminar the following week. "It's a rare opportunity," she said, with undisguised anticipation in her voice. "It might be gone for a week or so." "Go ahead," Nathaniel said calmly, his fingers unconsciously rubbing his cell phone. "Work is important." He knew it was time to end the betrayal. The moonlight outside the window was crisp and cold, illuminating the flickering chill in his eyes. Nathaniel turned off the light in the study, and the moonlight cast a clear line across the floor through the floor-to-ceiling window. He picked up the whiskey on the table, the amber liquid sloshing around in the glass like his churning thoughts at the moment. As a technologist, he understands the importance of gathering evidence, but as a husband, his heart has long been pierced by the sharp edge of betrayal. Early the next morning, he dialed a number he hadn't contacted in a long time. "Harrison, are you still working as a private investigator?" A low chuckle came from the other end of the line. Thomas Harrison, a close friend of Nathaniel's from his college days, is now one of the Bay Area's most prestigious private investigators. "Looks like you're in some trouble, old friend." Harrison meets Nathaniel at a secluded cafe. Harrison's expression turned serious as Nathaniel finished telling the story. "Don't worry, I'll help you gather all the necessary evidence. But you have to make everything look natural enough." Over the next few days, Nathaniel embarks on an elaborate evidence-gathering operation. He contacted the firm's legal team, under the guise of consulting on a merger and acquisition matter, but in reality to learn about the types of evidence needed in a divorce proceeding. At the same time, he authorized Harrison to investigate Jordan Pierce's background. "This guy is interesting," Harrison said in his preliminary investigation a week later. "Jordan Pierce is ostensibly a partner at Sterling Partners, but he has a side to him that is unknown. In the past 5 years, he has been involved in 3 extramarital affairs, each time targeting the spouses of socialites or wealthy individuals. Also, he has several suspicious offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands." Nathaniel reads the report carefully and suddenly notices a detail. The locations of each of Jordan's dates share a common feature. All of them are penthouse suites in 5-star hotels. He immediately pulled up Cassandra's credit card statement, and sure enough, he found several room expenses, but they were cleverly disguised as meeting expenses for a charity. It was at this point that Lucas had another attack. This time it was worse than before, and the doctor recommended hospitalization for observation. "I've booked a flight to New York," Cassandra said with obvious annoyance in her tone as she stood in the hospital hallway. "This seminar is important to my career." "More important than your son's life?" Nathaniel asked calmly. Cassandra froze, then turned and left the hospital. Later that night, Harrison sends a surveillance video. It shows Cassandra at the downtown Tiffany's, where Jordan is picking out a valuable bracelet for her. "Do you want enough evidence?" Harrison asked over the phone. Nathaniel shook his head, though the other man couldn't see it. "It's not enough. I'm going to make this chain of evidence complete and impeccable." He began scheduling more late-night work at the office, seemingly focused on the company's technological innovations, while secretly deploying his plans. He asked Harrison to deploy teams in New York ready to document Cassandra's every encounter with Jordan. At the same time, he began to quietly move and protect his assets. One evening, while working in his study as usual, he heard Cassandra talking on the balcony. "Don't worry," she said softly. "He's always working late these days and won't even notice. I can't wait to see you." At that moment, Nathaniel felt a chill like no other. The next day, he legally obtained all communications between Cassandra and Jordan. Those were far more informative than he'd expected. Their relationship had been going on for at least 2 months, and the upcoming trip to New York was clearly a major date they'd planned. Harrison's investigation also led to new findings. "Jordan's been selling his company's stock like crazy lately," Harrison said, "and he's in a similar relationship with a couple other women. Your wife may just be one of his many targets." The news cut through Nathaniel's last hesitation like a sharp knife. He began working on the divorce papers while having the company's legal team confidentially evaluate possible property division options. He paid particular attention to Lucas' custody issues, detailing all the evidence of Cassandra's recent neglect of her son's condition. Nathaniel was exceptionally supportive during the time Cassandra was preparing for her trip to New York. Not only did he not raise any objections, he offered to help her unpack. "Be safe," he said, with a hint of sarcasm in his tone that only he could detect. "New York isn't exactly flat these days." Cassandra was clearly surprised but pleased by her husband's thoughtfulness. "You've become so sweet lately," she said, "and I really appreciate your support of my career." Unbeknownst to her, Nathaniel had carefully placed a brand new cell phone in her luggage as a business trip gift. The phone is loaded with a state-of-the-art locator system, and Harrison's team is already deployed in place at various key locations in New York. Yes, Nathaniel decides to make this trip to New York his last chance to gather decisive evidence. Just the night before Cassandra departed, Lucas once again experienced asthma symptoms. "I've arranged for Susan to take care of him," Cassandra said as she packed her bags. Besides, the doctor said it wasn't serious this time. Nathaniel stood at the window, looking at the silhouette of the city in the moonlight. He knew that when Cassandra stepped onto that flight to New York, she wasn't just flying to what she thought was a romantic rendezvous. She was flying to the end of her carefully constructed empire of lies. "See you in New York," he whispered as he said goodbye, and Cassandra was completely oblivious to what the words really meant. As her silhouette disappeared through airport security, Nathaniel dialed Harrison's number. "Ready? It's time to end this." The sky was overcast in New York, and the light rain made a slight rustling sound as it hit the leaves of the trees in Central Park. Nathaniel sat in the car Harrison had arranged, monitoring Cassandra's every move in real time via his laptop. The new phone's locator system shows that she just arrived at the hotel. Harrison's voice came through the headset, and Pierce is already in the room waiting for her. It was a well-planned operation. Nathaniel had the firm's legal team ready with all the paperwork before Cassandra left. Now he was going to witness the truth of this betrayal with his own eyes. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Harrison asked. "We've gathered enough evidence." Nathaniel didn't take his eyes off the screen. "There are some scores that must be settled in person." Surveillance footage shows Cassandra dragging her suitcase towards the elevator. She looked like a different person from her usual charity director when she was well-groomed. The numbers on the elevator display continued to rise and eventually stopped at the top floor. "Sir, It's starting to move, came the voice of one of the investigators. He just called the hotel manager claiming that someone is stalking his guests and asking for more security. Nathaniel sneered. Looks like he's being cautious. Harrison, initiate Plan B. Half an hour later, a call came in to the hotel's main desk. This is the FBI's Financial Crimes Investigations Division, Harrison said in an official tone. We are tracking suspects in a major financial fraud case. The target, Jordan Pierce, is at your hotel at this very moment. This elaborate scam had an immediate effect. The hotel manager immediately panicked and promised to cooperate with the investigation. When he learned that there was another lady in the room, he even offered to call the police. No, don't call the police yet, Harrison said. We can't afford to spook them. But there is one person you must contact immediately, Jordan Pierce's partner, Mr. Nathaniel Wade. He is assisting our investigation. The manager immediately complied and dialed Nathaniel's number. It was then that news of Lucas' sudden deterioration came in. The doctor said the parents needed to be there immediately. Susan's voice was laced with sobs. They were going to do emergency treatment. Nathaniel's grip on the steering wheel tightened, and after a moment's struggle, he dialed the number he knew so well. When the call finally connected, his voice was low and dangerous. If anything happens before I see her, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. 10 minutes later, Nathaniel walked into the suite. Cassandra and Jordan were both there, the former pale and the latter with a calm face. Why are you here? Cassandra asked, trembling. What a touching reunion, Nathaniel said sarcastically. Mind if I join your business meeting? Jordan stood up and tried to maintain his usual elegant posture. Mr. Wade, this is a misunderstanding. Your wife and I were just discussing charity projects. Yeah. Nathaniel turned on his cell phone and played a recording. It's a recording of Jordan at Tiffany's the day before. Honey, this bracelet is perfect for you, just like our relationship. Cassandra's face instantly turned pale. Jordan, however, laughed. So? What do you want? I want the truth, Nathaniel said, playing another recording. This time it's a conversation between Jordan and some other woman about how to use an affair to blackmail the rich and famous. Jordan's expression finally cracked. Just then, the door to the room was pushed open and Harrison walked in with two plainclothes detectives. Mr. Pierce, the FBI has some questions for you about those offshore accounts. You knew? Cassandra spoke suddenly, incredulity in her voice. When did you find out? From the time you started treating your son's illness as a burden, Nathaniel said calmly. From the time you missed every one of Lucas's reviews to see this man. Right now, he's in the hospital and needs urgent treatment. Do you feel qualified as a mother? The words shattered Cassandra's last line of defense like a hammer blow. She sat paralyzed on the couch, tears slipping down her face. Jordan, however, has regained his composure. You have no proof? Really? Nathaniel pulled out a document. You think I would let my wife come to New York alone without any preparation? Harrison, show them the other evidence as well. Over the next hour, Harrison showed in detail all the evidence they had collected. Surveillance video, call logs, transfer details, and Jordan's other victim testimony. Most damaging was a detailed financial investigation report showing that Jordan had been using those connections for insider trading. You're not the first person he's lied to, Nathaniel said to Cassandra, but you're the only mother who's betrayed her child. Jordan finally looked flustered. Wait, we can talk? The time for negotiations has passed, Nathaniel said, opening the door to the room. Outside the door, more detectives and federal investigators walked in. These gentlemen will have a good talk with you. As Jordan is taken away, Cassandra finally breaks down. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Please forgive me. Forgive? Nathaniel turned, his gaze icy. It wasn't just me you betrayed. It was our son. Now, I'm going to take you back to Lucas. As for afterward, there was an undeniable determination in his voice. A lawyer will be in touch with you. The sky was still overcast in New York as I walked out of the hotel. Harrison was waiting at the door. Do you want me to take you to the airport? No, Nathaniel said. I've already booked my flight. It's time to fix everything. On the plane back to San Francisco, Cassandra was speechless and tearful the whole way. And Nathaniel's eyes were always looking out the porthole at the clouds. contemplating his next move. He knew that this was not the end, but a new beginning. The real reckoning has just begun. It was late at night when the flight back from New York landed at San Francisco International Airport. Nathaniel and Cassandra head straight to the hospital, where Lucas's asthma symptoms are under control, but the boy's haggard face makes Cassandra finally realize her dereliction of duty. However, Nathaniel knows that remorse is not enough. "You stay with Lucas," Nathaniel said coldly to Cassandra. "I'm going to take care of some things." Without waiting for her to respond, he turned and left the hospital room. In the hospital parking lot, Harrison had been waiting for a long time. "Is the paperwork all ready?" Nathaniel asked. Harrison handed him a heavy folder. "All the evidence is here, including evidence of Jordan Pierce's crimes. The FBI has begun an investigation into his offshore accounts." Nathaniel flipped open the file with a sneer. "Good. It's time to show them just how costly betrayal really is." The next morning, just as the financial markets opened, sensational news broke. Jordan Pierce, a partner at Sterling Partners, is suspected of major financial fraud, and the FBI has launched an investigation into him. The news was like a heavy bomb that immediately triggered an earthquake in the investment community. "Sir, Pierce's attorney would like to contact you," Nathaniel's assistant reported as he knocked on the door. "He says he's willing to settle privately." "Tell him," said Nathaniel without looking up, "that the law will give a just judgment." Meanwhile, an anonymous tip about the misuse of a charity's funds appeared in the mailboxes of major media outlets. The report details evidence of multiple violations, including false meeting minutes and unusual reimbursements. It's not directly named, but anyone with eyes knows who it points to. Cassandra is in the hospital with Lucas when her cell phone is suddenly flooded with countless calls. The board asked her to return to the organization immediately to explain the situation, and the media reporters were swarming around her. She looked at the screen of her phone in a panic and realized that a storm was approaching. "Mrs. Wade," board chair Emily Stewart's voice was chilling, "please explain the true purpose of these expenditures." The projector showed a series of hotel expenses, each corresponding to the date of her rendezvous with Jordan. These are normal business meetings," Cassandra tried to argue, but her voice had begun to shake. "Yeah," Emily sneered and played a surveillance video. Cassandra and Jordan are clearly seen interacting intimately in the hotel lobby. "Is this what you call a business meeting?" Cassandra was suspended by the board that afternoon. The major media reports came pouring in, and her carefully maintained image as a socialite crumbled overnight. To add insult to injury, she found that all her bank accounts had been frozen and her credit cards had been deactivated. "This is a necessary property preservation measure," is how Nathaniel's legal team explains it, and in light of your alleged misappropriation of charitable funds, the court granted the petition. Meanwhile, Jordan is in an even worse position. The FBI's investigation revealed that not only did he engage in multiple instances of insider trading, but he was also involved in cross-border money laundering. His assets were frozen across the board, and Sterling Partners held an emergency board meeting and decided to cut ties with him. "You have to help me," Jordan called Cassandra with a panic in her voice that she had never felt before. "I know your husband is behind this. Make him stop or we're all fucked." "You think this is just your husband's revenge?" Harrison told Nathaniel as he listened in on the call. "They don't realize yet that this was all part of your plan." Indeed, the retaliation was far deeper than it appeared. Nathaniel not only freezes their assets through legal means, but also uses his Silicon Valley connections to make sure they never turn over a new leaf in the biz. Jordan didn't end up escaping justice. He finally breaks down when FBI agents arrest him at the airport as he prepares to abscond. In order to obtain leniency, he gave a detailed account of all his offenses, including how he lured the spouse of a wealthy businessman and then traded on the insider information he obtained. Videos of these confessions soon appeared on Cassandra's cell phone. "See?" Nathaniel messaged, "This is who you betrayed your family to." Cassandra's world has completely fallen apart. Not only did she lose her job and reputation, she lost her son's trust. Lucas refused to see her after learning the truth. "Why are you doing this to us?" The boy's questioning left her speechless. And that's not the end of it. Nathaniel's legal team filed divorce proceedings, asking the court to consider the impact of her inappropriate behavior on Lucas' physical and mental health. At the custody hearing, even the judge's expression became stern when her attorney showed evidence that she had repeatedly missed her son's medical treatment for personal reasons. Do you think a mother who puts her selfish desires before her sick child is fit to continue to have custody? The lawyer's questioning echoed through the courtroom. Media coverage of the case continues to fester. A well-known journalist even published an in-depth report detailing the moral decay behind the scandal. The article quickly went viral on social media, leaving Cassandra completely discredited in the public eye. "You do have the perfect plan for revenge," Harrison commented. "But aren't you afraid they'll strike back?" Nathaniel stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows of his office, looking out at the Golden Gate Bridge in the distance. Sometimes the deadliest blow isn't destroying everything the other side has, it's giving them a taste of their own medicine. It turns out he was right. When Jordan's other victims come forward to testify, when more evidence of financial irregularities comes to light, and when the charity's financial audit report comes out, Cassandra and Jordan are in a much worse position than they initially anticipated. This revenge is pushing the betrayer into the abyss, step by step, in the way Nathaniel envisioned. And that is just the beginning. San Francisco in late fall is shrouded in a mist, with the Golden Gate Bridge looming large. Nathaniel stood on the steps of the federal courthouse and watched a handcuffed Jordan Pierce being escorted to the prison van. This once elegant venture capital partner now has a haggard face, no longer the elegant posture of the past. 15 years, Harrison said as he walked over to Nathaniel. That's a lenient sentence considering his guilty plea. Jordan's guilty plea in court completely shatters Cassandra's last illusions. Not only did he give a detailed account of how he systematically approached the spouses of wealthy businessmen, but he also gave up a transnational fraud ring. In his confession, Cassandra was just one of many targets, and their love was just an elaborate hoax. "You know what?" Jordan said, looking at Cassandra in the courtroom. "You're not even the most valuable target this month." The words were like a sharp knife that pierced the last of Cassandra's pride. The divorce hearing began on a rainy morning. The judge flipped expressionlessly through the thick evidentiary materials, which included detailed records of Cassandra's repeated neglect of Lucas's condition due to illicit affairs. "As a mother," the judge said sternly, "your behavior is appalling. These records show that in the last 3 months your son has experienced 6 severe asthma attacks, and you have been absent for private appointments on 4 occasions." Cassandra bowed her head, tears slipping silently down her face. She didn't even have the strength to object when the judge announced that full custody of Lucas would be awarded to Nathaniel. The media swarmed the press conference after the verdict in the case. "Mr. Wade," asked one reporter, "what do you think this verdict is a warning to other families?" Nathaniel was silent for a moment. Every choice has its price. Betrayal is not just the desecration of a marriage, it is the destruction of an entire family. The cost is especially heavy when that betrayal hurts innocent children. In the days that followed, Cassandra's life completely fell apart. Not only did she lose her job with the charity, but she is also facing a criminal investigation for her involvement in a case of misuse of funds. Her once glamorous social circle ostracized her, and her former best friends disowned her on social media. One night, she sat alone in her small rented apartment, looking through pictures of Lucas on her cell phone. She hasn't been able to see her son for 2 months since the court ruling. The boy in the photo was smiling brightly for the camera, a happy time before she had betrayed the family. Meanwhile, Lucas's condition gradually improves under Nathaniel's loving care. They moved into a villa by the sea, and every morning, father and son take a walk on the beach. Nathaniel made it a point to hire the best respiratory specialist to develop a treatment plan for Lucas, and the boy's asthma attacks became significantly less frequent. "Dad," Lucas asked out of the blue one night, "Mommy, will she ever come back?" Nathaniel put down his hands and looked at his son seriously. "Lucas, some things are hard to recover from once they're broken. But that doesn't mean we can't have new happiness." A year later, on Thanksgiving, Cassandra bumps into Harrison at a cafe. She was no longer the glamorous celebrity at this point, and her simple civilian clothes and plain makeup made her look much older. "How's Lucas doing these days?" she asked softly. It's good, Harrison replied. His asthma attacks are rare now. It also won first prize at the school's technology fair last month. Cassandra's eyes moistened. That's good. That's good. She hesitated for a moment, then asked, Nathaniel, he still hates me? Harrison looked out the window at the street. You know what? Truly powerful people don't live in hate. They live in forward motion. Nathaniel is now devoting all his energy to his career and raising Lucas. Indeed, the focus of Nathaniel's life shifted completely to Lucas. Not only does he personally tutor his son's homework, but he also regularly takes him to various science and technology events. With his encouragement, Lucas began to take a keen interest in programming, just like his father did back then. On Christmas Eve, Lucas receives a package from Cassandra. Inside the package was a hefty photo album of every important moment of Lucas' life from birth to the present. On the last page, Cassandra writes, I will never forgive myself for my betrayal, but I will always love you. I hope you grow up healthy and happy. Nathaniel watched his son's tears shimmer as he flipped through the album and patted his shoulder gently. He knows that the scars will always be there, but life must go on. In Silicon Valley tech circles, the story grew to be a cautionary tale. It is a reminder that the value of family should never be overlooked in these paper-thin times. And it's a sobering reminder about the cost to those with thoughts of betrayal in their hearts. Sometimes, Nathaniel said in a private interview, the greatest punishment is not retaliation from others, but the condemnation of one's own conscience. It's when you lose the most precious thing that you realize its value. The story ends with no one really winning. Jordan pays for his crimes in prison, Cassandra loses all the luster of her life, and Nathaniel and Lucas, struggling to find new life amidst the hurt of betrayal. But maybe that's life. There is no perfect ending, only the courage to keep moving forward. In the seductive land of Silicon Valley, this story is a perpetual reminder that the price of betrayal is far heavier than one might think. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.